Hi everyone, my name's Rochelle, and I just wanted to jump in here and share something that was coming to me this morning as I was driving, and then I've come back home and the unfold was still happening. So I just thought this needs to be shared, and especially at this time of year. Um, it was on the note of family, and yeah, I was sort of thinking, obviously, sad but true. There's a lot of people that are going to be connecting with family members and things like that at this time of year, and almost feeling in a state of dread because it's not that you don't love them, and it's not that you don't want to see them, and it's not that you don't want to give them a cuddle and kiss and give them a gift for Christmas, but you sort of know the landmine that you're going to have to navigate, and the triggers, and the traumas and things like that, or even the black and white perceptions and mindsets that you're going to be sort of dealing with. And I just wanted to share, and just a little bit of insight, it's just one, on the note of healing for ourselves and our family members, and generational trauma. And so mother wounds and father wounds. Ooh, I'm dropping my rose quartz. And on the bigger scale of that is the feminine wound and the masculine wound. And guys, like, I know it can really, really suck, when you've been hurt your whole life sometimes, growing up, and felt wrong, felt less than, were even punished, at different times for even just being you, and then we sort of want to split off parts of ourselves and even self-abandon and things like that, where you've felt abandoned by your own nearest and dearest over time, and thrown under the bus and rejected and things like that. And and then we self-abandon ourselves and throw ourselves under the bus because it was just too, where we think that we have to be a certain way to fit in and to belong in our family, in our friendship groups in different points in time, in our workplaces, and in society. And I just wanted to share that it really couldn't be further from the truth. Living in your truth and authenticity is the most powerful and the most healing thing that you can actually do. And it's literally starts with having your own back, with self-love and self-care and self-nurturing. And again, just having your own back and filling your own cup. And you really do. You start to build that trust factor back up again. And so we're not walking into these households and into these crossfire and into the to the war zone sometimes, on the back foot, where we're walking in. And again, it's not to walk in as well to try and go and prove a point, or to shout it from the rooftops of this is how it really is and things like that. It is just to hold space and to recognize things for what they are, and sometimes for who they are, well, for all the times who they are, but just to have an understanding and acceptance of ourselves and others, and without trying to change people, without trying to prove points and things like that. Yeah, sometimes, but just choose your battles. And when you sort of have your self-worth tank sort of full and content, you don't get on the defense so easily, and you don't feel that you have to protect and and defend. So we can sort of harmonize our households just by looking after ourselves, and just to have that greater understanding. It's just 444. To have that greater understanding, even when you're talking mother wounds and father wounds. And I'll just share a quick little story that one time I had this coach, that I just felt that I needed to see this woman, and I was traveling sort of about an hour and a half, you know, to go to this appointment, and it was beautiful. It was in the Blue Mountains anyway, so it wasn't too hard to do. But yeah, I just really wanted to see this woman. I liked her credentials, her, you know, different qualifications and understanding of a bigger picture, not just the clinical standpoint and the textbook sort of point of view of everything, you know, to have that spiritual component. And she was saying to me, you know, share with me, you know, the good, bad, and the ugly. She says, more the ugly. She says, I want to understand, you know, your story. So I was just sharing, and then she said to me, and even when I was talking about different relationships that I'd had, and I honestly didn't realize how many narcissistic relationships that I had been in. And when I left there that night, I was literally speechless. I went home that night because I realized I was in another one at the time. And yeah, so that was huge. But she said to me, could one of your parents have been narcissistic? And I said to her, well, I said, I've thought about it. You know, I'd done a lot of healing work and, you know, come a long way, consciously speaking, in myself, but still knew there were still roadblocks, still knew there were still blind spots, still knew that there was still self-sabotage and pain, you know, that I was still experiencing. And yeah, and still being triggered and taken out in different, you know, points in my life and attracting in different things. And I said to her, well, I said, I thought about it. I said, but I didn't want to look at it, you know. And she sort of said, okay. She said, well, if you were to say either or, which one would it be, you know? And I said to her, probably my mum, you know. And my mum was very controlling, very projecting, very bitter, you know, in victimhood mentality. You know, wanting that validation from everybody else, you know, was throwing her own kids under the bus. It was very image driven, you know, But then on the other note, you know, my dad was an alcoholic my whole life growing up. You know, drank, gambled, you know, took this and that, you know, was selfish, would choose, you know, his thing was beer, so would blatantly, flat out choose this amber liquid over us, you know, and or be at the pub, you know, we would drive past and see his car, you know, or truck at the pub, but then you would ring, no answer, you know. That was obviously before mobiles. And you would ring the pub. I know he's not the only man in history that's ever done that, but it still doesn't feel very good. That still is an abandonment wound that, you know, shows up, you know, in our lives, and we push it away, and we even hurt ourselves because we don't want to look at it. And so I just want to say, like, yeah, that sucks, and yes, it hurts. And compassion to your story, like, and to anyone that understands that, you know, my story. Though I want to say, like, even when it comes, and I've had to do additional, obviously, healing work on both my mum and dad, and to say it's still not, even though it feels very personal, I know, though it's still not for us to personalize. Like, when you look back at their story, their childhood, you know, even your grandparents, you know, how your grandparents were. And a lot of people say, you know, geez, you know, a lot of parents will say, you know, geez, I wish my parents, how they are to my children now, you know, I wish we got that version of them. But the truth is, they've grown and they've learned and they've been humbled, and they've seen, you know, they've seen their mistakes and registered along the way. But at the time, they're running on patterns, and they're running on their generational trauma and triggers and things like that that are showing up for them, and protection modes and survival modes. There's so many people in this world that are just literally functioning in survival mode, and instead of, you know, self-love, self-care. And yeah, like I learned many years ago that I was saying to the wording of, people aren't just running around being bitches and assholes. they are they are in pain, they are hurting, and it doesn't make it okay. And this is the thing as well, like this is where our own sort of self-healing journey, like, and it is our responsibility. Yes, it sucks, what happened, and yes, it may still hurt, though, where we still need to take our personal responsibility and ownership and take care of our own side of the street, that we too are not just throwing our energy around in the world to our loved ones, to our children, to our youth, to strangers, because, like them, I'm sure if you ask them, they would say their actions are validated because of this reason and this reason. And it's not so much ignorant and arrogance to even say that, because inside their minds, especially if they are stuck in that victim mentality, they do feel it's justified. They do feel it's self-righteousness, but it still doesn't make it okay because you've been hurt to run around hurting people, and I know that sounds a little bit harsh to say, but it's true, hurt people. And so this is where it needs to come back to thyself first, and just to understand that the bigger picture, and that greater perception and view of what we have all been exposed to throughout society and throughout our lives. And so it's not even, like, that's what I mean. It's greater than our immediate family lineage and story and personal generational trauma. It really is bigger than, so, okay, that's your parents' story. So is it your grandparents' fault? Is it your great-grandparents' fault? It's like, how far down the line do we have to point this? And it's like, how long's a piece of string, so yeah, it's like, I just really wanted to share this, because to simplify this back to its purest and to its rawest form, and to the simplicity and the magnitude of it, that because it's like, whilst you're a child, it's sad, it's sad when somebody's done this to you, done that to you, and done that to you. But then there's like an invisible line that you tread over, that you're now an adult and doing and saying and being, however, in the world because of your pain. And then it's like, it's like, do you see what I'm saying? It's that little invisible shift where you go from, oh, that's so sad that that's happened to you, to then, now it's you doing it. I've even said to my own stepdaughter at one stage, and she actually helped me do a lot of mother wound work, and brought up a lot of things for me, because even though I swore, and oh my God, everybody out there would say the same, swearing that they'll never be like their parents, not everybody, but a good majority. And that we swear that we'll never be like our parents, and we'll never say those things to our children. And then you hear yourself in a moment, and you feel yourself react, and see that whatever on the floor, and, witness that whatever, and your words that fly out of your mouth, and you think, oh my gosh, that was my mother, or father, and so yeah, it really is where we have to take our personal responsibility to break these cycles and break these patterns, and have compassion for our story and down the line, because it really was nobody's fault. It's nobody's personal fault of what we have been exposed to along the way. And when you look at the feminine wound, that we were, celebrated for putting everybody else first, the nicer, the better, and, the kinder. And don't get me wrong, because kindness is necessary, kindness, there's a big difference between kindness and niceness. And I even said to, a teenager in my life, I was talking to him one day about the difference between not kindness, niceness and goodness. And that's what I said to him. Goodness, good trumps nice. And he's sort of looking at me and that's what I said, good trumps nice. I said, because so many people out there are being nice on the surface, whether you're talking a work colleague, a parent, usually a mother, even your partner, but then, and we've celebrated that along the way, though they've put everybody before them, walking around with, maybe holes here or things like that. And I can promise you, there's a part of them that is pissed off and that is angry and that is hurt, but that is projecting, and that resentment that bubbles to the surface. And it's not saying they're not a good person. Them at their essence and their nature can still be a beautiful person. My mother, even though, I still experienced all of that, she still taught me kindness. She still taught me to go and knock on a person's door and tell them that their lights were on their car. And, I was mortified as a kid. I'm like, Mom, and she's like, go. Or to help that bird, that injured bird, or yes, that cat can come and live here, and things like that. And she would help animals. She used to, before it was like a business that everyone's got fur babies now, it was a lot cheaper back when she was younger, and she used to get kittens, stray cats, and get them desexed and put them back on the streets, and just so there was less feral cats, needing to be fed and things like that. And so and she was the one that taught me never judge a person by their postcode and never judge a person by their color, and she would say, I don't care if a person's purple, if they are good to you, that's what you go by. And so this is what I wanted to share, just how life happens to people on the way. And my mother, I've witnessed her crying to me, saying, I used to laugh so much, when I was younger, and then people have kids and then everything changes, they put everyone else before themselves. And it's not supposed to be like that. It's the yin and the yang. It's the exchange. And sometimes kids do need to be taught no. And not only do they need to be taught no with that, it's my turn to say no to you. It's not anything like that, of the power and the control of the word no. It's sometimes saying no and hearing the word no instead of yes at every given point, because, I don't want to get off course, but I just went to share a story, and I'm going, I don't want to lose this message. But, it's that self-preservation, that own oxygen mask first, that literally everybody benefits, because we are able to help because our cups are full. It's like that classic case. You can't give from an empty cup, even as much as you want to. And society really does, our bloody governments, I don't want to get on that tangent either, but they really don't have our best interest at heart in a lot of ways. So we really do need to, numero uno, to sort of share that ripple effect, because otherwise hurt people do hurt people. And it's sort of, it's just reeling it back, and it doesn't have to be that lavish, whatever to make up for it. It doesn't have to be that big, expensive, trip and things like that, or fancy, lunch and things like that. It's not about that. It's the simplicity, and bringing it back to thyself, and then understanding. I have forgotten my point, so I don't want to keep sort of winding with that. But again, and then I want to say about our men, our men were not only taught, again, celebrated for not showing emotions, not crying, not expressing at themselves. There's only a couple of ways that can go. Suppression equals depression, or so they either pull back and disconnect from the family and things like that. And even when you're talking about an alcoholic father and people that are leaning into substances and things like that, again, it's not that they're even being bad or selfish or trying to be hurtful. It is a survival mechanism that they have learned. And sometimes, sad but true, and God, so many people would know this, that when so-and-so is drunk, they're relaxed, they're happy, they're expressive, they're funny, and, or they're emotional. And those things come up because it's the only time that it can bypass their ego to, let those things out. And they drink to make it go away, so again, you've got to understand the bigger picture and the umbrella of that wound and that pain, rather than just our individual stories. It's not denying anything about your story, but it's just understanding it from that bigger perspective that can actually that then we can look at it through our own family, through the lens of love and compassion. And even if they have hurt you so much that you could sort of go, fuck that, I can't even say love right now. Well, or they don't even deserve the title mum or dad, so be it. But again, the release of that, but compassion and understanding and acceptance are the gateway to forgiveness and are the gateway to freedom. And our personal journey, our personal healing journey, is everything, because how we choose, even then, like I could have just wrote my mother off as a narcissistic bitch and things like that, but I didn't. I seen her inner child. It's just 22. I seen her inner child. I seen the times where she was not heard, valued, validated, seen, heard, and had to squash down that parts of her that then, it gets twisted, it gets jaded, and you get the results that you witness along the way. So I really just thought that this time of year is the most important to share this and to really start, letting go of these things in our family. Again, it's not saying it's okay what happened to you, but it's just looking at it through the eyes of love and compassion, and how can we make ourselves feel better in a moment and overall, and how then can we extend that to our loved ones, to our family lineage, and to the world, because everybody has their story. And again, it's not discounting anyone's story, it's not writing off anything, and it's certainly not saying it's okay, but it just gives that understanding to help us shift, to get us closer to freedom for ourselves and how we choose to move and respond rather than react to our so-called loved ones and our blood and everybody else. So happy healing, guys. I know this is a big one, and I know that that would have hit on a few things for quite a few people. And I really hope this message finds the people that it needs and lands. And happy healing. Have a beautiful Christmas.